Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this weekly podcast of the Intentional Living Process. I'm Marty Keller here in Sacramento, California, and my friend and colleague down in Oceanside, John Donovan. Good afternoon, John. How are
Hey,
you?
Marty. I'm doing well, sir. You?
I'm enjoying so heating up here in Sacramento. It's going to be 100 degrees this
Mm.
weekend. So we're just having a nice summer, beautiful summer afternoons here. If you're new to this podcast, this is a podcast where we look at breaking patterns of behavior that we say we don't want, and yet we find out we seem to be helpless to prevent them from happening. So, for example, have you ever hurt somebody that you loved and then later regretted it and then hurt them again, often in the exact same way? Or have you ever realized in the middle of an argument with someone that you were wrong about what you were defending and you continued to argue that way anyway? Or thirdly, have you ever known that you were about to do or say something that you would regret, maybe even got a little warning voice in the head or a little light going on in the head saying, don't do that, and yet you found yourself unable or unwilling to stop? Well, I sure have, John. Uh,
Yeah.
so in this podcast, we examine and uncover subconscious obstacles to what we want, those obstacles, those causes that create those behaviors, and we learn to befriend them and make them allies in manifesting the life that we want to live. This is the intentional living practice. We use the accountability tree, which we'll talk about. It's a practice that allows us, when I first came here, John, allowed me to investigate my subconscious mind. And doing this work with you, I realized I came to learn that the subconscious mind could be as much as 99% of the entire mind. And so that's a lot of territory that goes on in
Yeah.
the mind that my conscious mind could be completely oblivious to. In fact, there was all kinds of stuff about myself I didn't know, but the accountability practice that you developed helped me see what was going on inside. And once I could see it, I had choice. That's
Yes.
why we open up, we talk about these behaviors, the patterns of behavior that are like compulsions. A compulsion is I have no choice. Once I have a choice,
Correct.
then something
Yeah.
else can occur. The possibility is there.
Right.
So what we talk about, we've been talking about this, you and I together for 5 years on this podcast. And so anybody who's new, please feel free to check out some of the podcasts in our library that talk about introduction to accountability practice, ABCs of accountability practice, principles of the practice, accountability tree. All of those podcasts are there to help teach what we're doing here. And we get into this every week a little bit, but it's such a huge topic, John, that we can't possibly cover everything that's to be said. In fact, we've been saying it for 5 years and we're not done.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
We're still not done. Yeah.
so what we've been doing, my friends, is we have been reviewing what we call the accountability practice principles. And these are a series of insights that we have developed to help illuminate what we're talking about in in this, and I want to put those up on the screen, John, so we can uh, help help people who are following us get a little sense of what we're talking about. So just give me a second here to manipulate the Zoom room, and let's see, where did you guys go? Here we go. So there's some 33 principles that you and I and our colleagues have come up with. And where'd you go?
It just went away.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button.
So
Story of my life.
there you go.
So
Mm.
there's some 33 of these that we've come up with way back at the beginning. We started taking a look at these principles on this podcast almost a year ago in September with I'm
Hmm.
always getting what I want. And we've come all the way through there, what I resist persists, life is lived from the inside out, trust the body, healing is contagious, personalize everything, don't take anything personally. The answer's not the answer. Nothing's wrong and there's pain. I'm just selecting these as we drive by, fly by. And so every one of those, my friends, has a podcast that examines them in detail. And so feel free also to follow along and check those out. Last week, John, we talked about this one: abstain from unsolicited advice, opinions, judgments, or contesting questions.
Correct.
And abstain from this kind of behavior. And now we're on the next one, which says, what I feel determines what I perceive. What I feel determines what I perceive. Maybe you could start the conversation and give us a sense of what you hear with that principle.
The It seems backwards that first my perception, and then I have a feeling about it. And what I've come to understand is that I am always immersed in my what I call emotional feeling body.
Right.
As a human being, planet Earth, carbon-based life form, biochemical electromagnetic being, we perceive not only through our five senses, see, hear, taste, touch, smell, but we also perceive from this energetic field. And an example of that is, people may have heard before, when I entered the room, you could cut the tension with a knife, and that's our sense body. Everything looks copacetic or normal, but there's this feeling of underlying tension that determines my focus. That determines what I pay attention to. In my experience now, through 28 years of doing this accountability and 38 years of my recovery, is that that field precedes me in my walk. So if I'm paying attention to the feeling body, which we break it out into emotions and feelings. And in this society, we have an agreement about what that mostly means. And books that have been written about, what are emotions, are prolific, how they work, what they are, what they do. And yet I still found my pre-recovery and well into my recovery, I found myself baffled with situations that I couldn't figure a way out, or couldn't figure out a way not to even get in them in the first place. And what I've discovered, and I got this from one of the people I listened to, Jordan Peterson, he said perception is action predicated by emotion. And when I heard him say that, I thought, oh, dang, I wish I'd have said that, because that's what I know. That when I walk into a room, I have this capacity to sense things that are invisible, like somebody is in a distress, whether they may have a smile on their face, and yet there's something else going on that doesn't match up. And I get that information from my feeling body. My actions, or the focus I've had on my actions in my recovery, was dealing with emotional regulation, frustration tolerance, impulse control, and delayed gratification. Those are all capacities that, if I had been raised in a nurturing, loving home, I would have developed those four things: emotional regulation, impulse control, delayed gratification, and frustration tolerance. Having not had that opportunity, I entered my adulthood lacking tools to navigate in a, I want to say, safe, fulfilling way. And I thought that my thoughts led, my thoughts were paramount. My capacity to be rational and logical was the goal for me, like get the job done, quit my complaining, not crying or being emotional. Not that if I'm emotional, I have to cry every time, but just feel the feelings of connection or separation. And that's in my feeling body. So I had it backwards. I thought the thing happened and then I felt, which is also true. Something happens and I may shift my emotional feeling body to be in alignment with the event or my perception of the event. What I understand now is that the complex post-traumatic stress, the unresolved complex post-traumatic stress that's held in my subconscious memory, purposefully held there in an alert mode in case something happens that was harmful or detrimental or uncomfortable, an event happens again, I am equipped to notice and be proactive. What happened to me was, instead of relying on this emotional sense, I dismissed that feeling sense. And that's in those three questions you asked. Have you ever been in a situation where you're about to do something and a little voice in your head said, no, oh no, you're going to regret that. And I found that no matter how much that voice talked, I would just go do it. I would, and it didn't make sense to me. Well, we're at the nexus of my problem or my issue of reaction instead of pro-action. An event happens, I can say yes, no, or maybe, and it's one of the things we talked about, and participate in this to keep myself safe or comfortable or autonomous or whatever, authentic, instead of being enmeshed with somebody in a mental gyration jousting match to see who would win. So realizing that my emotional body is a Google map. It's like I have that in front of me when I'm entering a situation, so that based on feeling, tone, sense, information, like when you enter the room, you could cut the tension with a knife. It would be good information for me to pay attention to preemptively about. Excuse me, I got to plug in my situation. The way I used to explain it to the guys in jail, I wish that I would have to cut that part out. Hold on, I'm not plugged in here.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit there. When I was in the jail, I used to tell the story about before my recovery. I would say I'd walk into a group of men, and through my perception, what I could see, I could see there were guys that I could beat up, or at least hold my own. And there's other guys I wouldn't mess with. I know they'd take me down. So I'd make friends with the guys I didn't think I could beat up because I wanted to be on the winning side. That's leading with my head. Now I walk into a group of men, anybody, and I see things differently. I see concern, seeking, compassion, animosity, and then with that information now, I can gauge how I interact based on that information that's nonverbal. And it's not, I don't get it from see, hear, taste, or smell. Well, some of that is included in it, but I can now act on that feeling tone instead of dismiss it and go, oh, I'm not a sissy. that doesn't matter. And I didn't even really have enough wherewithal to even say that about it because I just dismissed it.
Right.
And my focus back then was mostly about being right, about being on top, about if there's a situation where we're jousting for, pecking order kind of thing, I was good at playing that game. Self-deprecating, other-deprecating communication. Now, I can't remember the last time I engaged in that type of conversation, unless I was using it as an example of what I used to be. So I know now that my feeling state, my sense of self, precedes my actions. Another example of this, my sense of self before my recovery, and again, well into my recovery, is that I was defective or I wasn't enough. So somebody would pay me a compliment in real time, and then I would sidestep the compliment, like, oh, well, anybody could have done that. Why would that be my action if I did a job that was well done and somebody said, job well done? I just, well, thank you. I couldn't just say thank you because my belief, my feeling was I'm never going to match up. I'm never going to match up. And that was true in my family of origin, because no matter what I did, it was almost enough, or it was good enough. And then next day, how come you're not acting like you did yesterday? What's the matter with you? Don't you know? Can't you learn? So that's why the principle, feelings precede perception. And the statement that Jordan Peterson made was informative for me, because he said perception is action. And I had to stop for a minute. Okay, what's that? If I'm perceiving something, that's an action. If I perceive, and this is not about right, wrong, good, or bad, it's simply my perception. Um, um, Perception is action predicated by emotion. So my thinking in alignment with my feeling body, I can equate that to intelligent. My thinking disconnected from my emotional body, the best I can do with that is clever. Make my way through situations, work hard, negotiate, be the one that's last pecking order, last derogatory word. That's just no longer part of my perception, because I've owned that I saw myself as a burden or defective, and I got a new principle going in my head here. Something I heard you say, and then from that sense of self, which is feeling emotion, my perception followed that, followed the state of being. So I acted in that field of where I was, which is not enough. That I deflected a compliment. Now this sense of self, it is a value. I know my value. I've recognized it. I really don't have to do anything to prove my value. I just know it's there. It was always there. I just didn't see it. So, yeah, I'll stop.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I thank you for that. It's a couple things jumped out at me I'd like to explore a little bit more. One is that, and I knew this, but I don't know that I ever heard it quite the way you said it, and it has to do with the Google map that the that within each of us and within me there is an emotional resonance. We did Eckhart Tolle called it the pain body or the emotional body.
Yes.
There's an
Hmm.
emotional um, structure. There's
Correct.
emotional structure that's connected to the neurology. It's connected to the nervous system. Because all this started, I was thinking about Steve Porges and vagal theory when you first started talking.
Yeah.
And that there's that the nervous system is a place where the emotional body may be generated, but it's not limited to the nervous system. And that
Correct.
and it makes sense because when we're born, the frontal lobes, where the neocortex, where the logic and reason occur, aren't even fully developed yet.
Correct.
And so the first 3, 4 years of our lives, we are nothing but emotionally based.
Correct.
And so we're mapping reality with our emotional body from the maybe even before the day we're born, but certainly from the day we're born. This surveying is an ongoing project. So
Correct.
so I've said this in other forums, but I believe that our thinking patterns are informed by our pre-existing emotional patterns.
Correct.
That how
Yes.
we start thinking at age 4 or 5 has is totally informed by the emotional body, such that there's no disconnection between the mind and the emotional body, even though the mind has the power to assume that there's no connection.
Correct.
And so that if that's true, so it says what I feel determines what I perceive. A corollary to that is that my thinking body is developed by my emotional body, or follows my emotional body, or my emotional development determines my psychological development.
Correct.
So just number one, that we human beings have this structure. Again, I'll use the word structure. I don't know if that's the right word, but we have an emotional structure that's always there, always resonating, just as our nervous system is always pulsing. There's always every nerve in our body is busy all the time, including all the nerves in our brains, busy all the time.
Yep.
Even though we may not perceive, they're already there. Number one. Number
Yeah.
two, I don't remember the book that I read, and I was trying to recall it to mind about how even when we walk, when we go to take a step, the mind is already mapping out the actual step we're going to take before we physically take it. So there's this activity of imagination, which is resonant, resides within that emotional body. That's always, you said it earlier in your remarks about it's always vigilant, it's always there, it's always on, quote unquote, even when we're sleeping,
Hmm.
it's on. And so
Yeah.
neuroscientists have been able to map exactly how that works and how the brain with this the mind is simply not limited to the brain cavity. The brain is not the mind, but the
Right.
brain generates mind. It's
Correct.
the physical basis for mind, but it's not the mind. And
Right.
so it's busy imagining the world in our subconscious so that when I walk, I lift my right foot, it's already imagined my lifting of my right foot. And then my right foot just responds to what the mind has already mapped out. And then so I move forward, and then it's mapping out what my left foot's going to do. And actually, it's mapping out what the whole body is doing. And so, this idea that what I feel determines what I perceive, it's not just about the feeling as a sensation, but it's about this whole body, this feeling body
Hmm.
that you've been talking about that produces this feeling tone, the term that you've used here. And it's just it's utterly remarkable that our bodies are so sophisticated that they can do all these things, and they're out of the it's out of the purview of our conscious mind.
Correct. Yeah.
It's like, whoa. So for
Which is, yeah, it's magnificent. Yeah.
So for the newcomer, I want to say that the accountability tree practice that we've developed here actually harnesses that reality. So in the accountability tree, I own the truth of what I'm experiencing in the moment. I'm unhappy, I'm scared, I hate myself, whatever, which produces an emotional resonance. And so the instruction is to sit with the emotion, just to be with the emotion.
Yeah,
Lots of things are going on when I do that, but I'm not going to get into those here. For our purposes, I'm present to the emotional body.
correct.
And oftentimes, when we initially work with people, people are feeling those unpleasant emotions that we've been trying to avoid: shame, fear, grief, or combinations of. So I feel those, I sit with them, and once I've fully occupied that feeling moment with my focus, the power of focus, I get to say what I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
You or I, as a facilitator, will ask the person who's experienced this, well, okay, now what do you want to feel? I intend to feel happy is generative. It takes that emotional resonance that I have now become presence to, and it reforms it, it reshapes it, it turns it into something else without losing the emotional power or
Correct.
the emotional anchor in the emotional body, and it puts it to work consciously.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is how what I feel determines what I perceive, works both ways. What I feel in I hate myself or whatever is part of that perception of my self-hatred, but I choose to love and cherish myself is now got a new emotional resonance that will change that perception as well.
Right. Which changes the behavior. In
Right.
the example I used, I'm not enough, so I dismissed a compliment. Replace it, own that. I'm not enough. That's the accountability tree, blame free, judgment free. I intend to hold myself in high regard, whatever the intent is. Now that's the guide, the map. So when somebody pays me a compliment, I go, "Oh, that's yeah, that I'm now in an emotional state of accepting my value, accepting my worth, uh, um, and I've reframed the 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 emotional state of being, point of
Right.
attraction,
Right.
and the point of attraction before my recovery. I'm not enough. I'm a burden. So everything was filtered through. I'm not enough. I'm a burden, and my behavior would be in alignment with that. So I own the behavior. I see myself as valueless or I'm worthless. Nice deep breath. I intend to hold myself in high regard. It reframes that emotional state, which predicates my perception now. Now I'll see the same event happening where before I saw it as an attack, I'll see it as now it's an invitation to connect. It's what, and it was this. It was that was the same all the time, filtered through unresolved trauma. I'm not worthy was an attack. Now filtered through, oh, I know I'm worthy and I'm valuable as I am, was perceived as an invitation for a connection. It's like, wow, it's just, wow, wow.
Yeah.
So
So the as we're coming to the end of our time together, I want to emphasize that this insight that what I perceive determines or what I feel determines what I perceive is the ground in which we do the accountability practice.
correct.
And so for the person who's watching this maybe for the first time, we invite you to come to a meeting and see and learn how to do this for yourself. So this is a practice that we do personally in group. The group is there to support me because I promise you, when you do this the first time, there's going to be a loud voice in your head going, this isn't going to work. Don't do this. You're embarrassing yourself, whatever. You can just,
Yeah.
if you're contemplating or you're starting, or you're in recovery, you know what I'm talking about. So the group is there to support us even when the mind is trying to stop us from doing the work. So
Mm-hmm.
we do this meeting, we do this work in group, and we have 4 intentional living meetings every week. They're all on Zoom. There's one on Saturday. that John facilitates. There's one Monday night that our colleague Dan facilitates. I do Wednesday, and our colleague Rodney does one on Thursday. And they're different times. So and different Zoom addresses. They're all at the end of the podcast. Please feel free to come to a meeting and check out what we're talking about. So it's a principle. Sounds like a theory. What I feel determines what I perceive. This actually is practical as we've been trying to explain it. This is a practical application to our lives. It's something that we do. We have to do individually though for it to make any sense. So we invite you to take that on. Any last minute thoughts then, John, before we wrap up?
I'd like to offer another principle before we get off. And it's from you. Befriend our character defects.
Okay.
Befriend our character defects.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see how that one goes.
I'll type that in after we wrap up. So as always, thank you, John. I appreciate you and everything that you've taught me, and I look forward to learning more. And thank you, everybody who's joined us. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Help us build the viewership of this channel. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay. Thanks.
See you next time.
Thank you, Marty.